Filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21 12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. And lots to do, as is tradition here on this Thursday. JD Pickell is going to join us today. Had signing day responsibilities yesterday, but I want to talk the national landscape of college football, the playoff, and what he thinks about the LSU Tigers as they move forward after the regular season in 2024. So we'll talk to JT in 15 minutes. 1:30. I meant to do this yesterday, but we got Brian Kelly on the mic and just didn't have time to get to everything we wanted to do yesterday. So we're going to now go look at my first SEC power rankings and then my power rankings for today and see how those kind of stack up. Should be an interesting exercise at 1:30. In the second hour, I want to talk about LSU at defensive tackle now that the ink has dried on National Signing Day and we have an understanding of kind of what things look like moving into the offseason. Chris Blair is going to join us at 2:15, and we'll talk Saints and Giants at 2:30 as those two teams who have not had a very good year will do battle up there in New Jersey on Sunday. But we start the same way that we start each and every day, and that is, of course, with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Got some bad news that we basically expected yesterday, and I hinted at it on the show, even though I didn't have any information, but I watched and found out that Jalen Reed will miss the remainder of the season for LSU basketball. Matt McMahon and LSU released a statement yesterday. If you were at the game or watching the game on Tuesday night, you saw it. It was right out of the chute. About a minute into the game, fast break opportunity. Reed goes up and lays it in, lands, and buckles. And it was a non-contact injury, and he went down and grabbed his knee and then couldn't put any weight on it walking off the court. We've been to a lot of basketball games, been to a lot of football games. You watch that, and you got a bad feeling in your gut as it's happening because you feel like you probably know. And you can hold out hope for the best, and Matt McMahon went to the podium after the game and said that it was a sprained knee for Jalen Reed, and I kind of looked at that and went, oh, hope so, but that doesn't seem and we found out yesterday it's a torn ACL and he'll miss the season. And this is a big loss. Big loss for LSU, no question. And it's just so disappointing because the team has done so much right over the first month of the season. Talking about a team that's gotten off to a 7-1 start, a team that's beaten 3 Power 5 opponents, a team that has not stepped on any landmines in the non-conference, and a team that really feels like it could take the next step in this program to make the NCAA tournament. And they still can. But we'll talk about what this means now that Jalen Reed is not going to be around for LSU the rest of the way. Jalen Reed is obviously your starting 5-man. What he brings to you is a scorer from the front court position and a guy who can take the basketball from the perimeter and attack the rim at 6'10", 240 pounds in a way that most people cannot. He shot the ball last year in SEC play very well. He was a 41% three-point shooter in league games last year, which means opposing bigs that are guarding him are going to have to go guard him at the three-point line. That opens up driving lanes for a lot of players on the perimeter, and LSU's got some guys that can really drive. And that's why he was a big piece to this team. If you heard Matt McMahon at Media Day, at a press conference, on this show, on OTB, he went on with Matt Moscona and post. Like he talked about Jalen Reed and gushed about Jalen Reed in September, about the hard work that Reed had put in, about how he put on some weight. He was still really running well, and he was primed for an all-conference type season. And when I wrote preseason about what I thought about this basketball team, I said, if they're going to be really good, and they're going to be able to compete at the middle or towards the top half of the SEC and be an NCAA tournament team, I believe Jalen Reed needs to play at an all-conference level. And he's not going to because he's not going to be there. Now, that said, he hasn't quite taken on the scoring burden for this team that I thought he might, but he's still averaging 12.5 points per game through 7 games for this team. So that's what you're missing. A big who can attack the rim, can shoot the ball a little bit from the outside, and can be a presence for you in the rebounding game. What do they have behind him? What does this mean for the rest of the guys? Well, Corey Chest has been really, really good and has earned a starting job. That sent Robert Miller to the bench. And Damian Collins, who we thought may miss significant time with that shoulder injury that he suffered at the Greenbrier, was back in action on Tuesday night. And those two guys came in and really did a great job on Tuesday in Reed's absence for basically the entirety of that game. He only played a minute in that game. Chest and Collins in that game combined to grab 13 rebounds. Robert Miller chipped in with 3 offensive rebounds. I think, honestly, with Chest and Collins in the mix, you might be a better rebounding team than Reed. Reed's a good rebounder. Those two guys could be really, really good rebounders. And those two guys, Chest and Collins, are definitely better defensive players than Jalen Reed. Collins is longer. He's not as sturdy, but he's longer and disruptive. And Chest has shown elite athleticism and a want to. And I gave you this stat a lot back on Tuesday night in my postgame story and then yesterday on the show, saying, look, these guys were a force defensively at the rim against a really long and athletic Florida State team. Keep in mind, Florida State, every guard is 6'5" and taller, and the 2 front court guys are 6'10" and 6'11". And they still went 9 of 29 at the rim with Reed out of the game. That is Collins and Chest, and to an extent Miller, and we'll talk about Derek Fountain in a second, but those guys are good defensively and rebounding, no doubt. They limit you offensively because under no circumstance, as far as I've seen, can you give the ball to Damian Collins or Corey Chest either on the perimeter or on the block and expect them to make a move and get a shot. They can't do that. Jalen Reed absolutely can. In the opener against ULM, he went for 20+. In the comeback against UCF, he was a big piece to that. He scored 21 in that one. You're not going to get that from Collins and Chest. And you're also not going to get any three-point production. Damian Collins is in his 4th year at college. Now, he missed a lot of last year due to injury, and we're not very long into the 4th year. We played 8 games. So I'm not counting 4 entire years of college, but he's been in college for 4 years. He's made 1 three-pointer. Corey Chest has not attempted one. So you're not going to get anything on the perimeter from those guys, which allows opposing bigs to sag into the paint and cut off driving lanes. That's a big problem. And you just don't get the offensive punch that you would have with Reed. So how does this change? Well, Jalen Reed was averaging about 12.5 points. I think he was probably going to be about a 14-point-per-game guy if he was playing well. You're not going to get 14 a game from Chest and Collins, I don't think, consistently. But if you can get 9 from those guys and they can rebound and defend to take 4 or 5 points away, well, now you've got a wash. Now, that's a lot to ask. It's not like Jalen Reed didn't rebound at all or didn't defend at all. It's also not like Chest and Collins can't help you on the backboard and defend. I think the biggest issue here is you lose your stretch big. And it's a big piece to basketball. Obviously, KJ Williams 2 years ago was a big piece to LSU. You had to go out and guard Will Baker last year at the three-point line. LSU now does not have a big that forces you to the three-point line. I think Derek Fountain can shoot it okay. Last year he shot about 32% from 3, and you do have to respect that to a degree, but he's far from a sharpshooter. So this is going to impact Jordan Sears and Cam Carter, and to an extent Victorious Miller, driving because it's going to clog up a little bit. But you're going to gain some stuff on defense. It's a give and take with this trade. I believe this makes LSU a little bit worse. But as I sit here today, and I may eat crow on this, and I'll be willing to say it if I see it, I don't think it's as crippling as I would have thought a month ago. If you would have told me a month ago that Jalen Reed goes down for the year in early December, I would have said they're done. They're absolutely done. But I did not really know if Corey Chest was going to impact this team at all. He is big time. I did not know if Damian Collins was going to step up and live up to that consensus 5-star rating. Defensively, he kind of looks that way right now. And we've seen LSU now play some high-level teams. This is not him just swatting shots against Charleston Southern, which he did do. He was out there against Florida State. That's a mid-tier ACC team. So they've got guys that are going to help that I didn't really count on a month ago. And the good news is, from the day they announced that Damian Collins was out for the year, which was the 4th of December, to the first conference game is a month. They've got a month to figure out what this needs to look like. They've got a game at SMU, and the rest are very manageable home games. You got Florida Gulf Coast, and you got Stetson, and you got Mississippi Valley State. And like you've got some games to get those guys on the floor, Robert Miller included, Derek Fountain included, to see what you can do. Matt McMahon has built some depth on this team, but Reed was very much going to be a key piece, and you lose something in him that you can't truly replace, but you've got to kind of make it work. We were talking to Matthew Bruni yesterday from the Bengal Tiger on 3, and he was like, look, McMahon played last year with no Damian Collins, and you lost Jalen Cook, and you lost Carlos Stewart, and there were pieces that you were probably going to count on that weren't there, and you figured it out. And that's just what he's going to have to do again. It's going to be difficult because, as we've talked about ad nauseum, the league's very, very good. This is a real gut punch and real disappointing for Jalen Reed, who put so much work in and was seeing it pay off for a team that's playing really good basketball early on in the fall. But you're going to have to move on without him. It's daunting, but I don't think as crippling as we thought it was going to be a month ago. So that's your look at LSU basketball without Jalen Reed moving forward. That's our Genesis opening drive. Every single car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. If you're looking for basketball info and you've missed this time to kind of ease into it now that football and signing day in the rearview mirror, my Hoops with Hunt podcast is up and running. You can catch that anywhere you find your podcast. Just search Hoops with Hunt. It is right there, as it always was before we stopped doing it 2 years ago when I didn't think any of y'all cared about basketball anymore, and we were figuring other things to do with this show. So we're back. It's not any new content. It's just going to be repurposed content from this show. If you miss our basketball segments on a given day, would like to hear what I have to say about hoops, don't want to go through an entire show on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast, just go to Hoops with Hunt. All our basketball content will be right there for you. Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's. We'll come back with JD Pickell of On 3 Sports. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo and his team, fantastic to work with. If all you know, you're a business owner, you're a CFO, and all you know about your insurance program as well, kind of costs a lot, and I'm sick of dealing with all these cold calls and salesmen trying to be pushed. That doesn't have to be your experience. Your insurance can be handled by one broker. It's not like Jonathan Carbo is only anchored to one carrier. No, he's an independent broker, meaning he's got dozens of markets that may be a fit for you and your business. And he'll make sure you're placed in the right place for the right premium, and you have the right coverage so that when something goes wrong, your business can keep on running because insurance will handle the back end of that. It's never a comfortable conversation to have, never a fun conversation to have, but it might be one that really helps your business in a really tough time. That's what insurance does at its best. Jonathan Carbo is willing to help you out with that. He's with the Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. You can check him online, HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Busy day yesterday for the whole crew at On 3. Of course, our local guys, Shay Dixon, Matthew Bruni, that whole gang at the Bengal Tiger were locked and loaded. And national folks didn't exactly get the day off. Real busy day for National Signing Day. JD Pickell, part of the team over at On 3, joins us all Wednesdays except National Signing Day, where he's a little busy, but he's got some time today, and we appreciate him for being flexible and jumping aboard here on this Thursday. JD, did you get some sleep last night?
Hunt, I did, man. I did, but I appreciate y'all first off flexing with me because I'm at the desk and I see that 225 Baton Rouge number pop up, and I was like, gosh dang it. I completely forgot today's a Wednesday. Because, I mean, you know this, like being in sports media, like you just think National Signing Day is like a day of the week. And so I didn't even realize it was a Wednesday. But all that to say, I appreciate you being gracious and having me on today. Excited to talk some ball.
No, y'all's whole crew rocked it yesterday. Y'all were wall-to-wall coverage from start to finish. It was some really good stuff. Let's talk some college football. Anything that you drew from Tuesday's reveal as we enter Conference Championship Week?
You know, not really, which is a pretty boring answer. I think the conclusion I've arrived at is I'm okay with the logic that we're using to decide this 12-team field. Like, within the rules of what the college football playoff is right now, the logic is sound. Like, do I think South Carolina is a better team than Alabama? 100%. Do I get why you have to value head-to-head above that? I also, 100%. I respect that. But at the exact same time, like, the bigger issue to me becomes, well, this can't be the way we do things for the next 10 years. Like, this playoff format isn't getting us what we're describing, which is 12 best teams. Like, I'm all for conference title games mattering. I don't think they should matter to the point where you have 5 auto bids with the G5 getting an auto bid, or with, these different schools all having auto bids. And I think the biggest objection to that from other folks will be, well, JD, you don't want to see, the little guy get a chance. You don't want to see Boise State have a chance. I'm like, take the auto bid part out of it. Boise State's a top 10 team in college football right now. If they beat UNLV, any format you want to slice it, like, they are in the college football playoff. Cincinnati made the college football playoff when they were a G5 team in the 4-team model. So, like, I have this issue that we're pretending that we have the 12 best teams, when in reality we have all these back doors to get a number 17 ranked Clemson, a number 15 Arizona State. It's like, let's just handle business regular season. If you're a top 12 team at the end of this thing, we'll go from there.
Where are you on what you did in November versus what you did in September? I mean, we're talking about Miami's win being at Florida, but that one may be the same Florida team. And I'm curious how you weigh how teams are playing late, because that's obviously South Carolina's argument, where Alabama fell on their face and Ole Miss fell on their face, but South Carolina's played great. But you got to, by some people's estimation, take the entire body of work. Where are you on that?
I think it needs to matter in the margins. Like, I think in a situation like with South Carolina, how well they played late, I probably would give them the nod over Alabama if they didn't have that head-to-head. I think the Miami win, you probably have to use the proper context of, well, hey, DJ Lagway wasn't playing for Florida. So, like, as much as that logo looks like a good win on paper, when we go back and look at, the schedule, you got the win-losses next to all of them. It looks good to have a win next to that logo now, but like, we all understand that's a different-looking team. So, I think it should make a difference in the fine print to some degree, but I do think the beautiful part about college football and what's made the sport what it is in so many different ways is a regular season from week 0 to conference championship weekend and rivalry weekend. I mean, it all matters to some extent, about the same. And any given weekend can change your season. So I appreciate that part of it. That part of me wants to keep that as much intact as possible. So I'd probably lean towards like, hey, if you didn't play well to start the year, that sucks. And as much as I think South Carolina is a top 12 team in America right now, again, the logic of it and the way this whole thing is formatted, I think that's probably the way that you have to go.
Does SMU need to win this weekend?
Absolutely. Absolutely needs to win. To get in the college football play. So I said that they need to win. I was thinking more so like just optics, like Rhett Lashley trying to generate some more juice around the program. I think they have to make it respectable. If they get body bagged by Clemson and it's 42-10, just the overall feeling around what they're going to be in the college football playoff committee's eyes is going to be really interesting. I would be wildly surprised if SMU, whether they win or lose, is left out. And that, again, another boring answer, another reason why I have an issue with the college football playoff format of like a number 17 Clemson jumping, what would that be? 6 spots, like 5 spots to get in the college football playoff feels bizarre. So, yes, I do think they need to win in regards to, optics, but I think they could lose and be respectable and still find their way in the dance.
How good's Arizona State?
I think they're good, man. I mean, if how good they are to me is almost secondary to how fun they are. Like, you got a 34-year-old head coach who's cutting promos on the post game every single time. You got a running back who has a name that sounds like a Dr. Seuss character in Cam Scadaboo. Like, you got a transfer quarterback in Sam Levitt who's just, I mean, he apparently, the way that I was told, like, Oregon State was in the mix for him when he was in the portal, and he's like, I was almost Gatorade, or maybe he was Gatorade State Player of the Year in the state of Oregon. Like, y'all didn't want me. Like, I'm good. So, all those things, all that to say is Arizona State's a lot of fun. I would not want to tackle Cam Scadaboo in the first round of the college football playoff, as much as I've just been on my soapbox here for the last few minutes saying you got to be a top 12 team. Here's the thing, too, Hunt. Who's to say that if Arizona State comes out and makes a statement against the Iowa State, if we were shooting it on just top 12 teams, who's to say that we wouldn't consider Arizona State in that group of top 12? I think that's definitely on the table. And again, they're just, for me, it's all about who they match up with that first round of the college football playoff. I can't wait.
Alabama played 6 brilliant quarters of football throughout the course of a season. I watched 4 of them right there with my own eyes. But I'm asking you, do you want to see Alabama in the college football playoff?
I want to see them in the playoff relative to who else they would be replaced by, if that makes sense. Like, I would take Alabama over Clemson in a heartbeat. And you just mentioned it, like, which Alabama do we see in the college football playoff is a tremendous question. I do think, though, by nature of what they've done in the SEC, I mean, if you told an Alabama fan before the year, hey, you're going to go 2-1 against Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU, will you take that? Like, I think they would in a heartbeat. In Clemson, I mean, the Louisville optics are tough. The game against Georgia is tough. South Carolina didn't even make the playoffs. For them to get left out and Clemson to get in would just feel weird. So I would want to see Alabama in the playoff, again, by nature of what the other options are that I have to pick from.
Ohio State had a pretty good year. They had a bad Saturday. Is it being made too much of because of who it was against, or are there real issues?
They're real issues. They're absolutely real issues. And I think the interesting thing with them, too, is as we look at, like, who they're projected to play in the first round, if it were to hold as it is right now with the seedings, like Knoxville, Tennessee would not be where that game is played, but to go to Columbus, Ohio, and to play Tennessee. Sorry, that was a confusing way to say it. I was looking at that bracket the wrong way. They'd play Tennessee in the first round. Tennessee can absolutely do what Michigan did to them in Columbus last Saturday, like 110%. So that's the concerning part. I think the bigger question, too, is like psychologically, how do you bounce back from that? Because we saw that team that bounced back with, C.J. Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. and just the horsepower that group had when they went and played Georgia and Atlanta in the semifinals. Like, I don't know if this team has that same mechanism to bounce back that way. Like, I wonder if there's that same kind of juice when you look down the barrel of, okay, we got to win 4 games to make the national championship or 3 games to make the national championship, 4 to win it, as opposed to like, hey, we're in the semis, we got to beat Georgia. If we do that, we're playing for the national championship. Like, I wonder how that impacts the team, especially, your 4th time in a row for a lot of those guys, like never beating Michigan. Like, I think that's probably pretty jarring psychologically as a competitor.
All right, let's talk about the games coming up this weekend. We know the MO on James Franklin's Penn State teams. This is another big game for them, although they are going to get in, but you're playing for a bye in a conference championship. How do you feel about Penn State's chances to rise to the occasion and play with Oregon?
I think the logos and how we view them right now, I think that gap is a lot wider than what the actual roster talent is. I think it would take the Andy Kolsniecki special. Like, my hope is, if I'm a Penn State fan, that we learn from what happened in Columbus. Like, it has to be get the ball to Tyler Warren, get the ball to Nick Singleton, be creative. I don't think that they are talented enough to play Oregon straight up the way they played Ohio State straight up. So I want to see the creativeness. I want to see the gimmicks. I want to see the quirks. I want to see Tyler Warren snapping the ball and then catching the football afterwards. If they can do that, they have a chance to kind of turn the whole narrative on James Franklin, because we look back at the last time Penn State won the Big Ten in 2016. The class that followed that they were recruiting, it would have been 2018. 2017 at that point, already pretty much locked and loaded. The 2018 class that was benefiting from the Big Ten title, top 5 in America. So if they can do that, they can sort of turn the tide a little bit on the James Franklin era at Penn State and kind of rewrite their own narrative.
Flying Austin to Atlanta or Houston to Atlanta is pretty doable, and Texas has a lot of money, and Georgia's going to fill up the Georgia Dome anyway. So I'm not worried about the SEC championship game attendance. I think it'll be packed. Are you concerned about Big Ten championship game attendance? It's a tough drive for Penn State. It's not drivable for Oregon, and they got playoff games that their fans may want to go to and spend some money on that coming up. So, like, is anybody going to go to that game?
I think there's some part of you, for an Oregon fan, where, just like you said, you're probably saving money for a playoff game. There's a part of me that wonders, with how rabid that fan base is and just how national it feels like that fan base is by nature of, the Nike brand and the Oregon logo, and, just a lot of people deciding to live all over the place after going to Oregon. I wonder if it's not important for them to be able to be there for that first Big Ten potential championship. I'm curious, but I think what you're saying is extremely valid. I don't know that it'll be as packed as maybe a playoff game would be if you were to play at a neutral site. I think those are probably the right way to think about it. But yeah, that's a curious thought. I'll say this too. I don't know if either way the crowd will make an impact on that game.
I just don't know if anybody's – I mean, I don't question those two fan bases at all for their first playoff game. They'll pack it. Oregon did a good job of flying down to Dallas when LSU played them in 2011. And they'll be there, but this game was just not that significant for either of those games if you're talking about disposable income. Let's go to the SEC championship game. Who you like?
I like Texas, man. And I felt horrible saying that out loud in our show a little bit, just because of what happened last game and because of the final image I had in my mind that made its way around social media, where it's like Kirby Smart telling a ghost story to Holly Rowe after they just beat the brakes off Texas and Austin. The thing for me is going back and watching that game. My little girl this week, before the Tuesday show, she's 20 days old now at that point, like in the teens. She's not sleeping, so I'm like, okay, she clearly wants to go back and watch the Texas-Georgia game. So me and her on the couch, 2 a.m. I'm watching that game back. The amount of short fields that Georgia had to work with was, I think, very uncharacteristic of a Texas offense. I think Quinn Ewers was out of rhythm. The second half of that game, you saw a different Texas team, and probably more importantly, that Georgia offense had one true touchdown drive where they had to go the length of the field, and they got a big chunk of it off like a double reverse flea flicker pass. So all that's to say, I'm not 100% sold that what we saw in Austin is all that reliable to happen again. Big thing to watch here. One is the Kelvin Banks injury at the left tackle position. Is he able to be serviceable against the freak shows of Georgia? Second piece, you got to think Steve Sarkisian's watching Georgia Tech, sees Haynes King in the quarterback run game, and he goes, well, Arch Manning is a guy who can wiggle a little bit. You watch back what he did against A&M. I wonder if we see maybe just an extra 20 cc's of the Arch Manning impact here in Atlanta.
We shall see. Appreciate some time, man. We'll talk next week.
I appreciate you, man. Go Tigers.
JD Pickell, host of the Hard Count on 3. Check him out on YouTube. Subscribe up to the channel. Get all your college football information from he and the guys there at On 3. All right, when we come back, some breaking news from LSU football. We'll talk about it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Safety's a big deal in the bathroom, especially as folks age. It can be a really hazardous place. If there's someone in your life that you love that may have some issues, it could be hazardous in the bathroom. Falls could be a big deal. Do the best to mitigate against that. You can do it with non-slip floors. You can do it with walk-in tubs. You can do it with showers with benches in them. You can do it with handrails around the slippery areas. All those things could be a big help. And they do it all the time at One Bath and Closet. David Duvall is happy to help you with that. Get that free consultation today. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com for that consultation. They've got financing options available as well. Don't delay. Just go today. It's OneBathAndClosets.com. One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Doing your weekend grocery shopping, get on by a Rouse's location near you. Always invite you to download that Rouse's app. I encourage you to download the Rouse's app. It makes shopping so easy. You can go on in the store, which I think is an incredible shopping experience. They're always clean and very well stocked, and all the options that you may need, certainly for your holiday parties or for gumbo weather, which is coming up this weekend. But if you don't have time to go in the store, just do your shopping right there on the app. You can pull up next to the entrance. They'll walk right out, put those groceries in the back seat, and you are on your way. Easy as that. Make it easy for you over at Rouse's. Rouse's, this feels like home. Breaking news for LSU football. Mason Taylor has made his decision about his future. The junior tight end will forego his senior season and enter the NFL draft. This is not a surprise. Mason Taylor told us in a media availability back in October at some point that he felt like he was physically ready to play in the NFL. You understand that I don't think he was going to be kicked out the door to the NFL with his family situation, but he felt like he was ready to go, and he's made that decision, and it's not a shock. This is a guy who showed up with Brian Kelly in a tight end room that was pretty much empty. Eric Gilbert had moved on the year before. Cole Taylor had a shoe thrown. He moved on, and they didn't really have a tight end. Jack Mashburn was trying to help him out. He was a high school quarterback. And you understood that Brian Kelly really values the tight end position and has that as a key pillar in his offenses over the years. And so it was basically kind of like Mason Taylor was the guy, and he did not start the opener against Florida State. But after that game, he started every game of his LSU career. And he was ridiculously productive. In fact, the most productive tight end in the history of LSU football. He leaves LSU as the all-time leader in tight end receptions, as the all-time leader in tight end yards. He caught 129 passes for 1,308 yards. He scored 6 touchdowns, and of course, most famously, made the catch to beat Alabama back in his freshman season of 2022 with a 2-point conversion in overtime. He was fantastic, and I think is prime for a long career in the NFL. He's filled out on that frame. He's 6'5", 255 pounds. He runs certainly well enough. He's got great hands, has made tough catches over the years time and time again, especially on third downs. I think about the 4th down catch that he made, 2 of them, but the one that was contested along the sideline against Ole Miss on that final drive that was awesome. And he was a security blanket for Garrett Nussmeier over the course of this season. A career-best 55 catches for Mason Taylor, a career-best 546 yards for Mason Taylor this year. Also made a touchdown catch in that game against Alabama 2 years ago in the second half in the back of the end zone, which was a huge play in that game. So congratulations to Mason Taylor on a phenomenal career, a great representation of LSU. This is a guy who they sent out for player interviews almost every week. We got to talk to, always nothing but pleasant, and was incredibly productive. So best wishes to him as he enters the NFL draft. What does it mean for LSU? Well, you look at LSU, and obviously Mac Markway left in fall camp, and you've got Kamorian Pimpton, who made 2 nice catches in the game against Oklahoma back on Saturday. You've got Trey'Dez Green, who's an immense talent, but you moved to wide receiver midway through the season as well. So you are incredibly thin there with only 2 guys on scholarship, and neither one of them are accomplished blockers in any way. So this is a non-negotiable for LSU at this point. You absolutely must go into the transfer portal and get a 255-pound tight end that can block SEC edges. It's non-negotiable. JD LaFleur looks like a heck of a player. It's one of the top tight ends in the country. He's got great bloodlines. His dad, David, was a great player at LSU and became a pick to the Cowboys and was a productive player in Dallas in the NFL. And he's got a big frame. He's 6'7", 245 pounds. I don't want him being thrust into that role immediately as a freshman. That's asking too much. Mason Taylor did it, but it's asking too much. I'm not saying you got to go get a first-team All-American tight end. You don't have to go get Brock Bowers from the Raiders. But you got to go get somebody that can be physical at the point of attack. And the good news is that's not going to cost as much as a quarterback, a number 1 wide receiver, an elite edge rusher, an offensive tackle. Like this is going to be manageable. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from the elite ranks. You've got some guys that can help you, that are going to get better in terms of blocking. This will be Kamorian Pimpton's third year in the program. Trey'Dez Green is a willing blocker. He's not necessarily an able blocker at this point, but he's going to put some weight on. He's always going to be a guy that plays more in the slot and out at wide, but he fills that position. This is something you've got to have now. And I feel like it doesn't have to come from South Carolina or Georgia or Texas A&M or Oklahoma or, I couldn't even get out of the SEC there. I was just trying to go through all these places, and they were all in the SEC. Doesn't have to come from Michigan or Kansas State. You can find somebody from a lower level that's just big and physical. I'm not asking this guy to come in and catch 55 balls like Mason Taylor. He may catch 4, but he needs to look like Logan Stokes. He needs to look like Chase Claymore. He needs to look like one of these big physical tight ends that LSU has had really in the Les Miles era. And you got to make that happen over the next month for sure. It's not like LSU's got tight ends. Like as I mentioned, they've got Kamorian Pimpton, they've got Trey'Dez Green, they've got JD LaFleur. You add one more, and I think you're okay at that spot, but it's got to be a specific skill set. So that's where LSU will be. I don't imagine this is a huge surprise to LSU. Mason, and this is guessing, but I feel like I've talked to Mason enough times, like probably 10 over the last 10 weeks, last 15 weeks. I feel like I've talked to him enough times to realize that he's got a really level head on his shoulders, and I don't think this is one where he pulled a fast one at LSU. He probably indicated to LSU weeks ago that this is where this was headed. So I think the staff probably understands this. Slade Nagel, your tight ends coach, has moved on. He's now taken the job there at Houston as the offensive coordinator. So you've got a vacant position coach and a position that needs some attention. So right now, Brian Kelly's probably going to have to spearhead that for the time being to make sure they get that accomplished. You got to fill that position and then make sure you grab one in the transfer portal as far as players go. So Mason Taylor, with the most productive tight end in the history of LSU football, moving on to the National Football League, leaves a little bit of a vacancy there at tight end for the Tigers. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, we're going to look at SEC Power Rankings, okay? We did this after 1 week of football. I gave you what I thought about the entire league. I'll tell you what I think about the entire league now. Then we'll compare them, see how that shakes out over the course of 12 weeks. That's next on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Saw a Genesis this morning, pull out of the old neighborhood. Thought that's a really nice looking vehicle there. It was white SUV. Looked phenomenal, as the entire line of Genesis do. And you can promise if you sit behind the wheel of a Genesis, you are sitting behind the wheel of an incredibly safe vehicle. The entire line was given the IIHA top safety pick. Some of them were top safety picks plus. It's very evident when you look at a Genesis, the design, how sleek and stylish it is. It's very evident when you sit in a Genesis how comfortable and nice the interior is. When you drive it, it's very obvious just how great the drive is. You can get a test drive with one of their brand ambassadors. Don't even have to go into the store. They'll come to you. I think it's not obvious is how safe is it. Well, I can promise you it's been tested. The entire line and every car in the line, every vehicle in the line has the same safety features. They don't skimp anywhere on that. It's very important to the folks over at Genesis. Get on by and see them. Airline at Piku. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge. The entire lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every...
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, closing up hour #1 here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Got a lot to do in hour #2. I want to talk defensive tackles. LSU signed 4 of those yesterday and got some talent that's on the roster right now. So I want to talk about what Bo Davis has done to the interior of that defensive line. We'll do that coming up in 15 minutes. But right now, let's get to my final SEC Power Rankings.
Hunt's SEC Power Rankings. The Texas Longhorns.
I got Texas at the top spot. Impressive effort there in Kyle Field to really clamp that team down defensively. Was it the best schedule I've ever seen? No. Did they get annihilated by Georgia on their home field? Yes. Still, I'm going to put Texas at #1. We'll see what happens in Atlanta this weekend.
The Georgia Bulldogs.
Got Georgia at #2, moved up a couple spots. No, actually moved back one spot. But they didn't have a great effort against Georgia Tech, but they're still, I think, one of the best teams in the league. They're still a national championship threat. Have they had a perfect run of it? No, they weren't great in Oxford, Mississippi, or they were bad in Lexington, too. But body of work suggests probably #2 is worthy.
The South Carolina Gamecocks.
I moved South Carolina up here significantly. I think they're that good. I think they went to Clemson and were workmanlike. I think Norris Sellers is playing incredible football. I'll take South Carolina against a lot of teams in the SEC. I will put them at #3 for the time being.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
Vol still have a great defense. Nico's playing better. They run the ball really well with Dylan Sampson. I think they're very, very good. I think they're a threat in the college football playoff. They'll be a real threat if they go to Columbus, Ohio. I think that probably after that they'd have to play Oregon as well, and that's a tough path. But I think Tennessee is good this year. I think they're worthy of that #4 spot.
The Ole Miss Rebels.
Rebs got all the way up to #1 for a couple of weeks. They back up to #5. I'm not sure how much motivation they've got for whatever bowl game's coming, and I don't know what is left on that roster in a month from right now. But a good football team. I think one that could make a run in the playoff if they were to get in. They're just not going to get in, so got them at #5.
The Alabama Crimson Tide.
Tide might get in, and they look really good at some points, and they look like they're not all that good at some other points. So I think this is fair. I think I would take all of the teams above them on this list against Alabama on a neutral field right now, and I think that's kind of the criteria. So Alabama comes in at 6.
The Florida Gators.
The Gators all the way up to #7. Just beat down Florida State as we thought they would, and that's a heck of a finish to beat Ole Miss, LSU, and Florida State for Billy Napier. Nobody thought that was coming back in September, and they got it done. Credit to the Gators.
Texas A&M!
Aggies move all the way back to #8. They threatened this list all the way up to #3 at one point. They were the only unbeaten team in SEC play. Marcel Reed's not great at quarterback. Just great if you let him run for 1,000,000 yards, which we know a team that did do that. They weren't really threatening Texas much of that game, couldn't produce an offensive touchdown, so they got their flaws. I got them at #8.
The LSU Tigers.
Tigers at 9 still don't run it great. I don't think the defense is dominant. Do I think they've got a good quarterback? I do. Do I think they're better than all the teams below them on this list? I do, so got them at 9.
The Missouri Tigers.
Got Missouri at 10. Finished the season pretty strong there. Got a victory over Arkansas at home. Brady Cook played well. Now Luther Burden's head of the NFL, so we'll see what's next for Missouri.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
League didn't fuel there. They were up in the top half of the league, up at number 8 at one point, and they played solidly much of the year, but they kind of ended with a whimper in Tiger Stadium and then against Tennessee, so Andy drops to number 11.
The Auburn Tigers.
Probably the team that's most talented relative to their ranking on this list, but still, they didn't win enough games this year, and they didn't really do enough to beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, so got them down to 12.
The Oklahoma Sooners.
Jackson Arnold's in the portal. His first year as a starter, it was not very good at all. They got a whole new offensive system coming in, and they got to overhaul the whole thing at OU.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Hogs finished at 14. They were scrappy. They were plucky. They did a nice job to beat Tennessee. They did a great job to go to Mississippi State and win by 1,000. We thought, okay, this is an Arkansas team that's doing some pretty good things. And that ultimately, they weren't very good. Won 6 games.
The Kentucky Wildcats.
Awful effort. Awful effort this year from Kentucky. They win 1 conference game. It was a big one at Mississippi, but they didn't do anything after that. Bad season for Mark Stoops.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Yesterday in the coming portal season was way more important to Mississippi State than what they did over the course of the season. 0-8 in league play for the Dogs. So that is my SEC football power rankings at the end. So now let's compare that to where things started at the beginning. Beck, who do you think had the biggest move either up or down from their beginning?
Well, I'd have to guess South Carolina.
Moved up 10 spots from 13 to number 3. And really, there wasn't anyone else that had massive swings. The other 2 that were 3 that were pretty sizable were 5-point swings. Vanderbilt went from the bottom to 11. Oklahoma fell from 8. I didn't think Oklahoma was great at the beginning of the year. I had them at 8, but they fell down to 13. Kentucky, I had up at 10. They had been pretty solid for like 7 years. Bottom fell out, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get that back, so they moved back 5 spots from 10 to 15. Everybody else was kind of in the ballpark. Florida went from 11 to 7, and I got a lot of grief for putting LSU at 6. My Twitter mentions blew up. Tiger Droppings got a hold of me there saying, LSU, that's ridiculous to have them at 6th. Like, how could you pick 6? Well, they backed up. I got them at 9th. And I don't even think that's unfair. Where would you put
No,
LSU?
it's not unfair at all. I would probably have them from 8 to 10, somewhere like that.
I got them at 9. Florida at 7. Is that good?
They finished the season well. I mean, I don't know that 7 is where I'd have them. I'd probably, I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably have A&M maybe a step above them, but they didn't finish the season well, so it makes sense as to why they
lost their last 3 league games.
Yeah.
Texas versus South Carolina in Indianapolis tomorrow. Who you got?
I'll take South Carolina.
Ooh. So would you put them 1?
I would probably have them 2. And I'd probably have
Georgia 1.
Texas great. That's a great effort against A&M, but they still haven't been. They still like South Carolina is way more battle tested than Texas is.
The only team that didn't get smoked this year was Tennessee. It's the only team that didn't just get blasted.
That was the thing that we said about them all year is that they have such a good defense and running game that they're not going to beat anybody really badly, but they're probably not going to get beat really badly also.
I say that. Ole Miss lost in Tiger Stadium at the end of the game. Ole Miss didn't get blasted. And
No,
those are the
they
2
didn't.
teams with probably the best 2 defenses,
Yeah.
quite frankly. Texas and Georgia have really good defenses, but those 2 teams didn't get smoked. Texas got run off their field by Georgia. Georgia got killed by Ole Miss. South Carolina got killed by Ole Miss, which is better than Cat to Ole Miss to beat 2 of the top 3 there by a lot. But Tennessee and Ole Miss didn't get crushed. Bama got crushed by Oklahoma. Florida got crushed by a lot of people. A&M got crushed by South Carolina. LSU got crushed by Bama. I mean, you get the point. Like, everybody had a week or 2 where they just did not have it. And that's not been the case dating back into the SEC for the last 15 years. Like, there were 2 or 3 teams that if you were going to beat them, you had to beat them at the end of the game. And it just didn't necessarily materialize this year. The teams that did not get crushed, Ole Miss lost 3 games, including one to Kentucky. And then Tennessee, they beat Alabama, which was really good. But outside of that, what's your bell cow? Like Florida, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt? It's interesting. It was an interesting league this year, and I'll be curious to see how it unfolds in Atlanta coming up on Saturday. One note before we get the end of the break. I don't know if I'll spend a whole segment on it because it's certainly not shocking. Shelton Sampson has entered his name toward the transfer portal. I shouldn't say in because you can't get in yet. It's not open. But he will transfer out of LSU. Just another hit from that class of 2023 that just has not really produced. It was Lance Hurd. It was Deshaun Womack. It was Shelton Sampson. That was the top of that class. And it just
Lance Hurd he did play for T-Star for Tennessee. I mean, I don't know how good he was.
It didn't sound very good.
Yeah.
And look, it's first year starting. He's got 2 more years to play. He might be an All-American by the end of it. But to this point, the guys that LSU signed to help LSU that were at the top of that class 2 years ago, gone. I think Jalen Brown was part of that class. He's at Florida State. I could go look it up, but I wrote about this a couple of months ago when things were a little bumpy for LSU. Like, you would imagine your guys in the middle of their second year would be taking a big jump, and you just look at that group, and it just hasn't to this point. And that's part of this portal era and what signing day is. That sometimes things just don't quite materialize. So. That's it for hour number 1. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand anywhere you find your podcast or your sound. You can find us, and of course, you can find us on YouTube. When we come back, I want to talk about an encouraging position on this LSU roster. Wide receiver, not so much right now, but defensive tackle, I am a little bit encouraged. So let's talk about that when we come back after SportsCenter. Don't go anywhere. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is that website. Nothing more important than the safety and security of your family and your home. And for us, Mitchell Fisher and the team at Audio, Video, Security Solutions are the folks that we trusted to handle our security system, and it's been phenomenal. We can arm the burglar alarm and disarm it remotely on the app. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've got access to cameras that look at the front door and the back door. We can pause. We can zoom in. It's always recording. We don't pay cloud storage fees. It's been incredibly convenient and reassuring for us that we can have that type of technology at our fingertips all the time. And it's because of the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number right here, 225-439-7920. If you'd like to get that burglar alarm put in, if you'd like to get cameras outside of your home or your business, Audio Video Security Solutions needs to be the phone call that you make. You can also check them online, avssla.com, avssla.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram can get you in a new 2025 Ram 1500 truck with $15,000 off MSRP. $15,000 off the newly designed Ram 1500 truck. All new Bayou Automotive vehicles come with a complimentary 7-year powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the...
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. NFL Week 14 kicks off tonight in the NFC North as the 11-1 Lions host the 9-3 Packers. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky believes this is a must-win for Green Bay.
The Packers are the team that matches up well with Detroit. You got to prove that you belong. Okay, we know Detroit's great. We think Green Bay can be great. The whole offseason was Green Bay's going to the Super Bowl. Jordan Love's going to win MVP. Jordan Love, this is a big game. You're the lesser quarterback so far this season. I know Jordan's been hurt and all that, and he's starting to surge. Prove it.
Dan Orlovsky on Get Up. Cowboys offensive lineman Zach Martin will miss the rest of the season. He needs surgery on his nagging right ankle. Martin will be a free agent in the offseason. Georgia is hopeful that running back Trevor Etienne will be able to play in the SEC championship game Saturday against Texas. He's missed the last 3 games with a rib injury. ESPN's Bobby Marks says Bucks forward Chris Middleton will make his season debut tomorrow night against the Celtics. Middleton had arthroscopic surgery on both ankles in the offseason.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy, coming on Friday. Will Kirk Cousins prove the Vikings wrong, or will this be his last start as the Falcons quarterback? It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Chris Blair in 15 minutes, talking Saints-Giants. Whew, what a matchup that is, coming up in 30 minutes. Giants are worse than Saints, like across the board. It's been a tough go up there for the G-men. But we'll talk about it 30 minutes from right now. What I wanted to do here at the top of the hour is talk about LSU at defensive tackle. Y'all know after January of 2024, when Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo and Jordan Jefferson left, all of a sudden you look up and you go, what's left? And you had basically Jacoby and Guillory, who had been a career backup in 4 years, Jalen Lee, who had been a career backup at Florida and LSU in 3 years, and like not much else. So Dominic McKinley, defensive end. And you try to go to the portal, and you're not able to cough up the amount of money needed to win some of these guys that were coming from higher profile. Gio Paez, who did not play like a true defensive tackle at Wisconsin. He played and Valley State, who half his schedule last. And so you're looking at this, and this is a train wreck. Like, I certainly did. I don't know how anyone could have thought otherwise. If you want to really throw your purple and gold glasses on, you could go, oh, well, Guillory's big and strong, and Lee's played for 2 SEC teams, and they signed a 5-star in McKinley, and look, they got a guy from Washington, and they bring in Sean Washington, who was a 4-star recruit, and he'll come in, and he'll definitely, like, they got enough guys. They got enough guys. I was sitting there going, none of these guys have ever played at this level and produced. None. That was how I felt about it. And then I went out to fall camp, and I watched Jacoby and Guillory, and I thought, okay, he's having a pretty good go of it. Like, he looks big and strong. He's winning a lot of one-on-one reps. Like, I think he can hold his own in there and not be a disaster. And I feel like Gio Paez is a Power 4 conference defensive lineman. They just need somebody else to come up and help. Like, I don't think it's going to be great. Maybe Paris Shan can kick down and give you some snaps. But maybe it's okay. And you trust Bo Davis to go ahead and develop that group more so than they had been, with an absolute turnstile at defensive line coach. Since Ed Ogeron left, you have cycled through defensive line coaches, some LSU's fault, some not, at a rate that was simply not sustainable and certainly counterproductive to the young players at that position. Like, you just were never getting coached by the same guy for more than 10 months. And so you bring in Bo Davis. Well, here's some stability. And let's, be honest. After Jacoby and Guillory went down, it was reasonable to think, they don't have anything. But they did. They were okay. They held their own. There were read option issues against A&M. Yes. They didn't stop the run against Bama. Yes. It wasn't perfect. They didn't dominate. But they were okay. But now I think you're starting to see them progress toward that unit really being a positive one on the team. I look at Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley and say that was a pretty impressive go for a pair of freshmen. Bro played in every game. He started 2. He had just put on 30 pounds and really produced for you. McKinley had 2 sacks in the Oklahoma game and kind of spent the first half of the season ramping up from an injury. And now Jacoby and Guillory is coming back for a 6th year. You realize that JVR Suggs gave you a little bit of a burst in the pass rush part of that, and that's a pretty reasonable 4-man base for your defensive tackle group. You'll have Guillory at one starter, probably McKinley and Bro at the other, depending on how that shakes out, and Suggs can play on third downs. And you've got Sean Washington, you've got Demarion Johnson, and I understand that those guys are there. They haven't necessarily proven as much, but they're there for some depth. And then you got signatures yesterday from Zion Williams, who's 340 pounds and huge, Brandon Brown, who Bo Davis has recruited for 3 years over 2 different stops and is a little bit leaner, but is a really quick interior defensive lineman. You got Walter Mathis, who had offers from Clemson and Auburn and Miami and some others. And then you bring in Dylan Battle, who's another 300-pounder from the Dallas area that's got some heavy hands. And I'm confident not all 4 of those guys are going to help LSU's football program for 4 years. But the point being, if you've got Guillory, McKinley, Bro, Suggs, and one of Demarion Johnson and Sean Washington and Zion Williams and Brandon Brown and Walter Mathis and Dylan Battle, one of those guys, that's 6 guys. One of those guys is a good SEC player. You've now got 5 guys in that tackle rotation that you really feel like you can trust. Now, I want to get from I can trust them to their stars. Because you look back at LSU's best defensive tackle tandems over the years, best teams over the years, and you're talking about Chad Lavallee. You're talking about Kyle Williams. You're talking about Glenn Dorsey, Ricky Jean Francois, and Marlon Favorite. You're talking about Michael Brockers and Benny Logan. Even in 2019, Tyler Shelvin was a handful for teams. His NFL career wasn't what Williams and Dorsey and Brockers and Logan was, but he was really tough in college. And that's the next step if McKinley or Bro can be that. I think Guillory's going to be rock solid, and we'll see what this freshman class brings in. But Bo Davis's track record suggests that he will develop these guys. He did it for a long time at Alabama. He was doing it at Texas, where he put 2 guys early in the draft on a team that went to the college football playoff that had 4 teams in it. And now he coached a group of kind of ragtag guys last year to a pretty solid effort. So I'm not suggesting this is a strength for LSU's team next year. I'm suggesting it could be. And that's a far cry from where we sat this time last year after those three guys went to the NFL and you looked and said, well, what's left? And in this college football world that's like roster management whack-a-mole where, all right, offensive line pops up, get that fixed. All right, defensive line just popped up, get that fixed. 2 wide receivers just hit the portal, get that fixed. Like it's never ending. But certainly defensive tackle was a big issue for LSU 12 months ago. And I would suggest right now, if you can get a first-team all-league defensive tackle who'd like to come, I'm all for it. But I don't think that's chief among the needs for LSU right now. Certainly not with wide receiver, quarterback, tight end are right now. Defensive tackle looks to be on solid foundation. Now, 3 of these guys at the transfer portal next year, we'll rediscuss the conversation. But I only have the data that's in front of me that I can work off of. And Ahmad Bro's already said he's coming back. I don't have any reason to believe Dominic McKinley's not coming back. Jacoby Guillory is coming back, and these 4 guys that are freshmen have already signed on the dotted line, and I don't think JVR Suggs is in a hurry to leave either. So you're talking about a position group that's going to be pretty deep, that has brought in some talent, has a really good position group that's finally a coach that's back for his second year at the position, which hasn't happened in a while. I feel good about defensive tackle now. They've addressed those needs. And that's a very, very big positive because you cannot win. I don't care if it's conference realignment. I don't care if it's NIL. I don't care if it's transfer portal. I don't care if it's 4-team playoff, 12-team playoff, whatever. You can't win at a championship level if you don't play great defensive line and you don't put guys that are all Americans and go into the first and second round of the draft. I just routed off all of LSU's guys. Alabama was a factory for 15 years putting defensive linemen in the NFL draft. Georgia's done that for the last 5 years. That's where you got to get. Clemson's got a ton of guys. Demarcus Lawrence and Brian Brzee, and you know the names that Clemson's had run through there. Like, you got to have dudes, defensive line, to win at the championship level. And Bo Davis is starting to work on that now at LSU. And Brian Kelly alluded to that yesterday at his press conference when he said, now you're looking at a defensive line with depth, size, physicality. If that's what it's looked like in the SEC, we're putting men together to put together the defensive line in terms of what it should look like. So big day for Bo Davis and a group that now looks to be pretty rock solid on the defensive tackle side for the Fighting Tigers. When we come back, Chris Blair, voice of those Fighting Tigers, next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LaBerge Baton Rouge. Got to make LaBerge Baton Rouge your game day headquarters all season long. You can watch all the games, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, bowl games, conference championship games, whatever. Watch them all on their giant screen TVs. They've got awesome seating area, easy proximity to the sports book, easy proximity to the blackjack table, easy proximity to their great food and drinks. So grab a crew of your friends and head over to ESPN Bet inside LaBerge. Get in all the action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet. Penn's online sportsbook now live in Louisiana. Score big this season at LaBerge Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Savor game day platters and snacks, plus drink specials at 1717 Kitchen and Cocktail. So come out for game day and let our team make you the MVP. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk Saints Giants coming up here in 15 minutes. But now let's head to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chat with the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair, joins us now. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. Coming off a big win the other night, huh?
Yeah, I want to talk some hoops, but let's do a little bit of football here first. You had to question how LSU was going to respond to those 3 straight losses. And now we know the dust is settled. They came back and took care of business with 2 home games. That was an impressive effort, I thought, emotionally, for that team to respond that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, I think Coach Kelly talked about it, even heard some of the players talk about it, that, they love you when you're winning, not so much when you don't. And the only people that are going to change anything about it, there's nobody on the outside. It has to come from within. And, they went out and did that over the last 2 weeks. I think in some areas maybe played some of their better games, or at least more consistent games against Vanderbilt and certainly against Oklahoma.
I thought the defense looked good. Limited offenses in Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, but we knew that was coming. And quite frankly, Florida hadn't been gangbusters on offense, and they did a pretty good job against LSU in that game. So I thought Whit Weeks was probably in the middle of all of that, specifically in that final game. What do you make of his sophomore season?
Yeah, I think he was kind of one of the breakout players, certainly defensively. And, I think he'll go in and roll into next season with, probably one of the top prospects in the SEC, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. But, when you talk about the improvement defensively, I mean, I think I'm like everybody else. I've heard you talk about it. When you look at some of the young guys that, were thrust into having to play early year, mid-year, and, you could think we all could agree look like they were getting their first significant snaps, suddenly towards the back end and over the last 2 weeks are starting to really make plays. And obviously Don McKinley kind of leads that list. But, there's a number of guys that are freshmen, redshirt freshmen and sophomore that I thought played well on the defensive side. And to me, that was the issue all along, is that you've got couple of veterans. You lose a couple of veterans due to injury early on, and now you've got a team that's just got to get more experience and get better, not only as individuals, but playing with each other. And so I think that's kind of, the natural cycle of things, which, again, I think brings some optimism moving into next season.
I know you brought me on to help with pre- and post-game because I'm a genius and I'm never wrong. And I sat here 3 years ago when they hired Brian Kelly, and I said, I can tell you this, they're going to have good tight ends while he's here. They brought Mason Taylor in, and he was pretty good for 3 years. He just announced that he's going to head to the NFL. You got to watch his entire career unfold. What do you think about Mason Taylor?
Well, first off, every dog certainly does have its lucky day. But secondly, yeah, it's I'm obviously I think I'm like everybody else, not totally shocked by the announcement today. But, I got to admit, there was part of me that thought, man, in some crazy world, wouldn't it be great to have him back for one more season? But I think the impact that he had, not only as a player over the last 3 years, but I think what we'll probably be saying next year, maybe even the year after that, is the impact he had on the way the tight end is not only utilized, but how it's seen here at LSU. And, obviously Coach Kelly and Coach Sloan and the offensive coaches believe in it because he's been one of the top targets, not only this year, but in years past. And he's got some pretty good ones behind him. So I think he really has kind of set the level, set the bar now for tight ends at LSU and what they can be used for. And I got to believe if you're a tight end somewhere that can catch the ball, hopefully block a little bit, and you're in high school, LSU's a place where you go, hey, I can go there and become a star.
Signed a pretty good one yesterday, and JD LaFleur, whose dad was quite the player here in Baton Rouge. All right, let's shift over to some basketball. Big win, as you mentioned, on Tuesday night, and the Tigers sit here at 7-1 and have certainly positioned themselves much better this year pre-conference than they did last year, and I thought that was really important because I'm sure you were watching too. The SEC handled the ACC over the last 2 nights. It's going to be a bear once January rolls around. Yeah, it really looks like the worm has turned. I mean, for years, it was always, the ACC is the cream basketball conference of the country, and the numbers don't bear that out. And, that's not by accident, Hunt. You probably have talked about it. The SEC, credit Greg Sankey and his crew about 8 years ago said, guys, we're losing ground from a very tradition-rich conference when it comes to the sport of basketball. And suddenly you saw teams and schools go out and start spending money on facilities and upgrading facilities. And when you look at the coaching staffs that have been assembled in the SEC, I mean, just name it. I mean, there's the household names of college basketball coaching right now are coaching in the SEC. And no surprise that 14-2, the final tally, through the SEC ACC challenge. But for LSU specifically, it's huge. And that was one of the big goals. I mean, obviously the goal is to compete for an SEC title. It's to compete to get into the NCAA tournament. But prior to those, Coach McMahon's goal was we got to improve November and December because, truth be told, a year ago with our conference record, we probably get dancing. Yeah. So, kudos to those guys. They've defended the home floor extremely well. They played great against Florida State for 40 minutes, even when the shots weren't going. And I know I sound like a broken record, but for me, that's what has impressed me the most about what Matt's been able to do with his team is even early on in the first half. And yes, we want to improve how we come out in the first half and how we score the basketball. But the fact that these guys are still playing the type of defense that they're playing when their shots aren't going in. And you've heard coaches for years say, when you're coming up playing the game of basketball, when you go out in the backyard and practice, you're not practicing defense. You're practicing shooting, three-pointers, free throws, whatever, layups, dunks. But you got to want to play defense. And I just like the fact that these guys do. And I think as the game wore on, LSU got their shot to fall, hit a couple of clutch threes, got a couple of extra transition buckets, but they smothered Florida State. And the fact that Florida State couldn't hit threes for most of the game is why they lost by 10. I wrote this and I've said it. Matt McMahon was just beaming about Jalen Reed all of September and the work he had put in and what his junior season was going to look like. Unfortunately, we got the news yesterday that's not going to continue. He tore his ACL early in the ballgame on Tuesday. First about Jalen, you spent some time around him now for 2 years. How disappointing that's going to be, and then I'll ask you about what LSU does in the front court after that. But first with Jalen Reed. Yeah, I mean, it is tough. I mean, I remember Jalen as a freshman, and it just seems like there were times that freshman season he was frustrated that he wanted to be able to do more and just wasn't able to do more, and the production wasn't consistent. And it saw a little uptick last year, and then towards the end you kind of saw, hey, this is starting to come into form. The development is starting to come. And then this season, I mean, it was like this is a different team. I mean, if you've got a backcourt that can score consistently and you got a guy who can, get the stuff you need between the lanes, this could be a nice formula. And he certainly was part of that. And now you pretty much can count on having to fill up 12 points, maybe more on occasion, plus, a solid 8 rebounds a game. And, the good news is, we saw a little bit of it on Tuesday where, Corey Chest and obviously even Derek Fountain from a hustle standpoint and a rebounding standpoint, and Damian Collins, who I thought played extremely well the other night. If those guys can just together
kind of fill that void for Jalen Reed, I still have a lot of high hopes for this team. But without question, it's a huge loss not to be able to count on, 12, 15 points around the rim and 8 to 10 rebounds.
The way I've kind of explained it is if LSU's going to offset this, like Collins and Chest can't take the ball on the perimeter and go score. Like that's just not going to be part of their game, and they're not going to be back to the basket focal points of the offense. So they're going to need to get some junk points around the rim, which they can do, and then they need to play really good defense and rebound to maybe save 4 or 5 points from the opposition through the course of a 40-minute game. If they do that, I think they can offset the 12 points, but it's a tall ask because they don't have anybody that really plays like Jalen Reed. That's kind of my read on the situation.
No, I think you nailed it. I mean, Coach Brady and I discussed it just briefly after the game about, what the possibility was. Obviously, the indication was not good coming back from the training room after Tuesday night's game. And that's what we looked at. And John immediately looked at the stat sheet and said, this is what we're looking for. And to the far right, for those who haven't seen the stat sheet, it's your plus and minus as a player on the impact of the game. And he pointed to the 3 you just mentioned, plus 4. He actually had Fountain in there as well. Yeah. But they all finished in plus numbers. And he said, if that continues and you don't have a guy, as you said, laxing defensively and allowing a big to maybe go on a burst of 6 to 8 points and suddenly they've got a negative 11 on the game. If they just stay in the positive column, I think LSU will be just fine. And that is, again, by committee, by team effort. It's not going to be one guy stepping in to fill up Jalen Reed's loss. It's going to be 3 or 4 guys that, as you said, even if it's not points, if it's block shots, if it's, avoiding an offensive rebound for the other team, that's a positive impact on the game. And again, it's going to put a little more pressure on your backcourt, but I like what I see from Jordan Sears and obviously Cam Carter. And I think in a supporting role, Jai Bailey and others.
I liked Sears on Tuesday. He had trouble. Florida State didn't have a guard under 6'5", and he's not 6'5", and he struggled with that in the first half. He never stopped, though, and he kept driving in there in the second half, and he kind of took over the game along with Carter. I enjoyed that on Tuesday. What did you think from courtside?
Well, it was great. It was great strategy, Matt. Told them at shoot-around that day. He said, hey, guys, they switch everything. So trust me, yes, they're the second tallest team in the country, but occasionally one of the bigs is going to be on you, and they don't have the footwork. And I thought in the second half, LSU was a lot more selective when Florida State switched. And instead of Watkins being on Sears, maybe it was Dang or Bo Bowen, and he was able to then break him down the dribble, as John Brady says all the time, and I hear it, and it's so true. When it's little on big, little's got to drive. And, again, some of those guys that were out on the perimeter for Florida State certainly had him outsized. But all you had to do is get a couple of ball reversals, a couple of passes, get a high ball screen. Suddenly they're switching everything. You're going to get one of those mismatches. And I think Jordan did a much better job in the second half taking advantage of that.
All right, football season's regular season in the rearview mirror. No more Brian Kelly shows every single Thursday. So what's coming up on the network? I know basketball, Matt McMahon show, coming up here in short order.
Yeah, well, we got the big one tonight. Patrick Wright, Shaida Williams going to have the Cardinals, Stanford, and LSU and their SEC-ACC challenge. So that's tonight. Then we'll have some basketball coming up on Sunday. And then the Matt McMahon show will get us started. Now that they moved conference play to January, Matt's first show at TJ Ribs will be on December 30th at 7 o'clock. So looking forward to that. And then we'll find out here in a few days where we're going bowling, and we'll be ready for that.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Chris. We'll talk next week.
You got it.
He's Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, LSU, and Florida Gulf Coast, Sunday at 2 p.m. Inside sources tell me Myers-Palmer could make his first appearance at the PMAC on Sunday. We'll see. Can't confirm or deny. We're going to have to check a second
Big
source
news
here. Going to have to check a second source, but it could happen. We drive down Nicholson every day, and he points out the baseball stadium and the football stadium and the basketball stadium. I think it might be only one half, might be available for a half, not a 40-minute guy. That might be a guy you can lean on that much, not in condition, quite we should say. But could be 20 minutes of Myers-Palmer in the PMAC on Tuesday. We'll get some confirmation on that. Check with some inside sources there. All right, when we come back, Saints and Giants on Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. How does 3 years of complimentary maintenance sound? Pretty good? How does 3 years of complimentary valet maintenance sound? Even better. Nobody really loves to sit on the service aisle and wait for your car. Now, if you're going to do it somewhere, it's going to be Genesis of Baton Rouge because it's a phenomenal facility, great ambiance. The amenities are awesome with this coffee machine that can make your coffee any which way. Snacks are available. It's quiet. The Wi-Fi is great. You can sit there and enjoy yourself and actually get some work done. But if you don't really want to do that and you don't have time to leave the office or have the kids with you and want to go be productive, they'll come get your car. Like, they will come to your house. They will come to your office. They will bring it to the dealership. They will handle your maintenance, and they'll bring it right back to you. And all the while, they will leave you with a Genesis to make sure that you can get around while the car is being maintained. That's just part of the experience of being a Genesis driver. If you're looking for a luxury vehicle, look no further than Genesis of Baton Rouge. They're on airline at PQ. You can start your buying process online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, Saints and Giants coming up on Sunday. Not exactly the most appetizing NFL game that you'll have all season long. If I was putting this in my Friday tiers list, this one would go in 4. The Giants have just been brutal. The Saints kind of had their playoff hopes, slim as they may have been, sapped on Sunday. They couldn't get it done against the Rams. Mathematically, you can make a case for it. I'm not going to do it. But I will talk about this game because the Saints are going to play a football game on Sunday, and we'll talk about it. But I want to start with the Giants, just so you as Saints fans know what you're getting into here. The Giants have lost 7 straight games. Their quarterback was demoted to fourth string and then said, please cut me. So they did. And then their backup quarterback got hurt right before he was supposed to play in Dallas. That's, of course, Tommy Cutlets. And they went to Drew Lock, and things weren't great. On Thanksgiving, they lose the game. So now you come back, and they've had 10 days off, and you got Giants and Saints. Now, the Saints have been decent on defense the last month. They've held their last 4 opponents to under 24 points. That's decent. They hadn't been dominating and smothering. They hadn't held teams to 8, but they've held them under 24. The Giants haven't scored 24 points since October the 6th. That's 2 months. So I would imagine the Saints should be able to keep the Giants under 24 points. I mentioned Drew Lock is going to start. He's had 10 days to prep. He did not back for that game against the Cowboys. But it's not like he's got a lot to work with here, okay? Both of his initial starting tackles may be out of this game. That helps the Saints pass rush that hasn't been great. But you may not need a great pass rush because the Giants offensively in the passing game don't really do a lot, and it doesn't have a ton to do with the fact that they don't protect the passer. It has a ton to do with the fact that their quarterback play has been atrocious, and outside of Malik Neighbors, there's not really anybody to get the ball to that you feel super awesome about. Now, these are jarring statistics, so I want to prep you for that. But it's really bad. They're dead last in yards per attempt in the NFL. They're dead last in passing touchdowns. They're the only team in the NFL without a 45-yard pass on the season. They're dead last in yards per catch. They're second to last in passing yards total, and no one on their team has 4 receiving touchdowns for the year. I remind you that Marquez Valdez-Scantling has 4 receiving touchdowns for the Saints. He showed up like a half an hour ago. So this is real bad stuff for the Giants passing game. Not like, well, it's a little inconsistent. Not like, it hasn't been great every single week. It's the worst in the league by a wide margin. They don't complete a lot of passes. They don't create explosives. They don't have consistency in who's throwing the passes. Their offensive line is hurt. Like, they can't do anything in the passing game. Now, the Saints, although we like to suggest that the Saints have done a great job of drafting and developing corners, they haven't been great against the pass either. They're 29th in the NFL in pass defense, and we know the run defense has struggled at times this year. But I still can't imagine that Drew Lock is going to get back there and go to work on a Saints secondary. Like, that just doesn't appear to be very likely. If he does, what an indictment on that group. And I've told you this every single week. As far as things that I'm actually looking at that may contribute to the next Saints good team, the guys that you got out there playing corner very much fall in that category. You need Kool-Aid McKinstry, as many reps as he's getting right now, to consistently improve and become a high-level NFL corner. You took him as a high draft pick. He's got all the measurables. All the reports on him have been really good. And now he's thrust into action in some quote-unquote meaningless games. You need him to develop. Alontae Taylor, got to play well. His role is changing. We know that. But he's really moving back to what's a more comfortable position for him. So those guys need to show up and play well in this game. It will be gravely concerning if we come back here on Monday and we're talking about a Saints secondary that can't stop the Giants. I know Malik Neighbors is really good. Trust me, watched him with my own eyes for 3 years. He's really good. But everybody in the NFL has got a receiver that's really good. Everybody. So you need to show up and play well. And I think the Saints will. I think this is probably the game they're most likely to win. I would put Oakland in there. I know that one, or it's not Oakland. That's just never going to die very easy. Las Vegas in there. And I realize this game's on the road, but the Giants are a mess. And they're not just a mess because their tackles are hurt. They're not just a mess because the guy they took in the first round at quarterback, they've moved on from. They're a mess from top to bottom. They're a mess as far as the front office goes. Their head coach is now embattled after a really good first year. Their roster is in flux. Their best player is Malik Neighbors, and he's in the locker room after games talking about how he's sick of losing. It's not the quarterback's fault. Ask the coach. Like, there is dysfunction start to finish. And you know what fan base doesn't really like dysfunction? Folks from New York. They get really mad at Knicks ownership and front office executives every year. The Mets fans have a massive inferiority complex, and Jets and Giants fans aren't real happy when they lose. So I expect the Saints to go up there to New Jersey and play in front of a light crowd, not empty, but light crowd that is ready at the drop of a hat to turn on that team immediately. Boo birds, disgust, early departures, the whole thing. And it's up to the Saints, who, in my opinion, while not good, are still more functional than what's going on in the Giants organization, to handle themselves professionally, to go up there and just beat that team and move on. Like, that's what I think is going to happen. I told you Tuesday that I was ready for the Saints in their best interest to lose all their games. And I still feel that way. And I realize that rubs Saints fans the wrong way, and that's not my intention. I'm trying to get the Saints to be really good again. And I'm trying to get draft picks. But my expectation is that the Saints, that are still functional if depleted, are in a better spot than the completely dysfunctional Giants. And I expect it to play out that way on Sunday. If it doesn't, that's a red flag, and it probably eliminates Darren Rizzi from any conversation about being a realistic candidate to be the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints without the interim tag. Those are my thoughts early on Saints and Giants. We'll certainly make a pick on that game on tomorrow's show. There have been a couple more transfer portal additions for LSU. We'll talk about those when we come back. We'll play some Take It or Leave It, and we'll get on down the road here on this Thursday. Getting closer to the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. Look, Robbie Bolton and his team are true pros. And if you've had a bad physical therapy experience in the past, not necessarily unpleasant, but maybe not as productive or efficient or effective as you want, you get to pick where you do your physical therapy. Don't make that mistake again. Go to Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Robbie Bolton's been at this 20 years. He's got a team of physical therapists right there ready to help you get back to being your active self. From the second you walk in there, there's going to be a hands-on physical therapist helping you every step of the way. They've got state-of-the-art technology, first-class facility, and they've got a great team of people, and they'll help you get back to being your active self. Doesn't matter if you're a youth athlete, if you are in your 60s trying to get back on the golf course, if you just graduated from college and you're trying to stick with playing hoops 2 times a week, but you got an injury and can't get back out there, they'll help you at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. They're online at EvolvePT.com. You can stop by. They're on Starring near Highland Road. It's Robbie Bolton and his team at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. EvolvePT.com.
When you can't rely on technology, you can rely on Mountain Cold Refreshment.
Dave's back on.
Coors Light. Choose chill.
At Ochsner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Ochsner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one: you. Ochsner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Looking for the ultimate game day experience? Come to the Queen Casino in Baton Rouge. Wall-to-wall TVs mean you'll see every touchdown in HD. Place your bets and feel the thrill of every play with our DraftKings Sportsbook. The Queen Casino, where every moment is a win.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Congratulations to our 2024 Hooters College Football Pick'em season-long champion, Roy Barrymore. Roy wins a 75-inch 4K flat-screen TV with a soundbar and free Hooters wings for a full year. Also, congratulations to our Week 14 winner, Beatsy Plaisance from Prairieville. Beatsy wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Coming soon, it's the Hooters College Football Bowl Pick'em contest with 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Latest LSU Tiger to announce his intention to jump in the transfer portal again. Portal isn't open yet. So these people that are making announcements haven't officially gone in, but we can trust that's their intention at this point. Kylan Jackson, safety from right here in the 225, and we hinted at this earlier back, but I'm going to do this exercise again. And I did this like 3 weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, but I'll do it again. LSU's 2023 signing class featured 26 high school signees. 26 signed in that class. It was the 5th ranked class in the country. And this is why it's hard for me to go nuts about yesterday's performance, because like this could be the same thing as 2 years ago. It could be the greatest class LSU's ever signed. But this was 2 years ago, the number 5 ranked class in the country. 26 guys signed. Lance Hurd, gone. Deshaun Womack, gone. Javian Toviano, been on the bench. Jalen Brown, gone. Shelton Sampson, gone. Jackson Howard, gone. This is the top of the class. I'm not cherry picking. That's the top of the class. DJ Chester, starting center. Kamorian Pimpton, reserve tight end. Maybe a starter next year. We'll see. Whit Weeks looks like a big-time hit there. He's going to be 3rd in the SEC in tackles this year. That's 2. You've had DJ Chester, your center, and Whit Weeks. Kylan Jackson, gone. Caleb Jackson, reserve running back. Tyree Adams was your 6th offensive lineman. Might be a starter at tackle next year. We'll see. Too early to tell. Ricky Collins, gone. Mac Markway, gone. Trey Holly's not here in legal issues. Ryan Yates, gone. Kyle Parker's been hurt. Kai Prian's gone. Christian Brathwaite, gone. Jeremiah Hughes, gone. Paul Mabenga, reserve offensive lineman. Jackson McGowan, gone. Michael Darty, gone. Dylan Carpenter, a reserve. Ashton Stamps, a starter at corner. Connor Gilbreth is gone. And that is your 26 signees. So you've got Whit Weeks, you've got Ashton Stamps, you've got DJ Chester as starters, and the other 23 guys are either gone or have been on the bench. I mean, how many are gone? 1, 2, then I hit the wrong button. I got to count how many of these guys are no longer with the program out of 26. It's well over half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's 12 or 13.
10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 15, and Holly. So 15, basically 16 are not with you right now of the 26. That is, that's the nature of the beast. But that year, as I've talked about, in the transfer portal, you brought in Aaron Anderson, you brought in Braden Swinson, you brought in Ovia Gofu, you brought in Omar Spates, you brought in Logan Diggs, who led you in rushing, you brought in Paris Shand, you brought in Jordan Jefferson, you brought in Zy Alexander, you brought in Andre Sam. So your portal class helped a lot. But the guys you brought in that class, as highly rated as it was, it's just not helped almost at all. And that is, I'm not sure what to attribute that to. And I'm sure it's just a combination of everything. Combination of poor evaluation, combination of guys not being patient with guys in front of them, combination of recruiting a little bit too nationally, combination of not wanting to pay money to. I'm not. There's probably a lot of factors at bay, but you look at that. It is that's not after year one. That's after year two, where your best players should be really, really strong contributors at the end of their second year. And you just did not see that on this team. Now, I still have hope for Javian Toviano. I have hope for DJ Chester. I have hope for Kalen Jackson. I certainly have hope for Tyree Adams. Kyle Parker looked to be a pretty solid player, but he got hurt. Paul Mabenga really improved over the last month of the season. So it may end up that you've got 4 all-conference guys off this team when it's all said and done. But the sheer numbers of exits on this team from that class are just a little bit jarring to this point, and that's just the era of college football. So you look at LSU's class from yesterday, and you wonder, like, how many of those guys are going to be impactful and how many guys are just going to move on or just bust. And I talked about it yesterday, and I think this analogy still rings true. Like, this is the Major League Baseball draft part of college football organizations. You just bring in a bunch of young players. You realize that you hope some hit quickly. You realize that some may take some time to develop, and a lot of the guys that you take in this quote-unquote draft, which is recruiting, are not going to work out. But you can supplement those with your free agency, which is the transfer portal. I think it's a very, very apt comparison, and this is kind of points in that direction where you look at a group of guys that you brought in that you had really, really high hopes for. If I'd have told you on that day that Lance Hurd, Deshaun Womack, Jalen Brown, Shelton Sampson, and Jackson Howard, who were the highest-ranked players in that class outside of Toviano, just wouldn't help at all, you would have thought I was nuts. But here we are, and they didn't really help at all. All right, Vec, we got to take it or leave it today?
We do.
Sweet.
All righty, first one here, BYU quarterback Jake Retzlaff, who's become pretty well-known in college football circles for not only his play, but also the fact that he's Jewish, playing at BYU. He has signed what might be the best NIL deal of all time. All right. Retzlaff and kosher food company Manischewitz have announced their partnership just prior to the start of Hanukkah. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. That's awesome.
I'll take it.
I'm still going to go with the Coldest Crawford with the air conditioning company in Lincoln.
Yeah.
That's very good. Are there any others that we can immediately come to offhand that were like name-based?
The mayonnaise one wasn't that Will Levis?
Yeah, Will Levis.
The mayonnaise one.
That was because he said he put it in his coffee. I'm looking at kind of name stuff.
I'm not.
Oh, that's not a name thing. It's a faith thing. So yeah. It's just that's always interesting if you can make that happen. I know Cade York had a.
Somebody had one with. Not Cheez-Its, or there was one that was a name, I think, too. Can't think of what it was, though.
But yeah, I'm going to take that all day. I think that's awesome, and I think that's going to get the headlines, and that's really what this is intended for. Yeah. It's when you grab some acclaim, and there is return on investment for that.
Yeah,
that they will get name brand recognition they would have never gotten for that. An oil booster who just cuts the check every month for the $2 million defensive end, like there's just no return on that. This company will actually see some return on this, I would imagine.
All right, next one here. UCLA has fired offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy after just one season calling plays for the Bruins. Bieniemy just isn't a good coach. Take it or leave it.
I don't want to go that far, but maybe. Now, the agent for Eric Bieniemy did cover this up and said always the intention, while the Commanders were still paying Eric Bieniemy, He didn't want to just sit out, so he was going to come help their new head coach, who he considers a little brother, is what the tweet said. And he was going to come help for a year and then go back to the NFL.
Okay, then why did they say why was it that UCLA has dismissed him? That's not.
Look, we'll see if he immediately gets another job.
Yeah,
we'll see if the NFL is just really anxious to bring him in, because look, we all know how big an influence Andy Reid is. We all know how good Patrick Mahomes is, and we all know that all of his other stops have not been good. So I don't want to just absolutely dismiss the guy's entire career, because I don't know enough about calling plays and what his situation was at each individual spot. But we did research, because I wrote a story about this on LouisianaSports.net on UCLA Week, because he's from New Orleans originally, and the statistics aren't very good. His offenses have not been good when he's not had Andy Reid over his right shoulder and Patrick Mahomes with the football.
All right, last one real quick. Former Patriots coach Bill Belichick has reportedly interviewed for the North Carolina coaching job. Bill to college football. Take it or leave it.
I forgot what you said. I was reading a tweet.
What was it? What happened?
There was something about nothing happened. I got
wow.
I saw Nussmeier's name on a email, and I went, did he leave? He didn't. He's a finalist for an award, and that stole my attention.
Okay, Bill Belichick interviewed for the North Carolina job. Take it or leave it.
Oh, God, leave that. There's no freaking chance. They just had an old guy who couldn't win. Now they're going to get an old guy who has no interest in ever recruiting ever. No chance. I mean, that is... I would bet every nickel to my name that Bill Belichick, there's not very many nickels, but that he is not going to be the head coach of North Carolina.
That would be pretty shocking.
Oh, my God. All right, that's it. Garrett Nussmeier not leaving at the moment. He's a finalist for some award. So it kind of got me panicked there for a second. We'll see. Keep you updated on Transfer Portal Tracker at LouisianaSports.net. Muso's coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Give yourself the peace of mind to know the power is not going to go out at your home or your business. I always tell you about homeowners and how important it is to have that Generac home standby generator. And it is. But there are also instances where businesses very much need that generator to pop on. We lose power here at Guarantee all the time because, newsflash, Guarantee is in South Louisiana where we have power outages. But we've got that generator. It pops back on. We can get right back on the air. You can get right back to work at your business if you've got that Generac home standby generator. And all these generators that they sell at Boudreaux's Electrical come with a 7 to 10 year warranty. And all these generators can be monitored remotely and serviced quickly by their team of more than 10 technicians if there's a technical issue. Don't let the lights go out. Get a Generac home standby generator from the folks at Boudreaux's Electrical. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389, or do the easy thing and check them out at boudreauxelectrical.com. That's boudreauxelectrical.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team.